The essential truth of the aphorism, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," not only embraces the whole of a man's being, but is so comprehensive as to reach out to every condition and circumstance of his life. A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thought. Man is the master of thought, the molder of character, and the maker and shaper of condition, environment, and destiny. Thus, as a being of power and intelligence, and the lord of his own thoughts, man holds the key to every situation, and contains within himself that transforming and regenerative agency by which he may make himself what he wills. Only by much searching and mining are gold and diamonds obtained, and man can find every truth connected with his being if he will dig deep into the mine of his soul. These, in essence, are the basic truths, the infallible principles, and the inspired precepts upon which James Allen, the author of this recording, has written one of the most searching and influential documents of our age and time, As a Man Thinketh.
A man's mind may be likened to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein, and will continue to produce their kind. Just as a gardener cultivates his plot, keeping it free from weeds, and growing the flowers and fruits which he requires, so may a man tend the garden of his mind, weeding out all the wrong, useless, and impure thoughts, and cultivating toward perfection the flowers and fruits of right and useful thoughts. Every man is where he is by the law of his being. The thoughts which he has built into his character have brought him there, and in the arrangement of his life there is no element of chance, but all is the result of a law which cannot err. This is just as true of those who feel out of harmony with their surroundings as those who are contented with them. Man is buffeted by circumstances as long as he believes himself to be the creature of outside conditions. But when he realizes that he is a creative power, that he can command the hidden soil and seeds of his being out of which circumstances grow, he then becomes the rightful master of himself. The soul attracts that which it secretly harbors, that which it loves, and also that which it fears. It either reaches the height of its cherished ambitions or falls to the level of its unchastened desires by means of circumstance. But circumstance does not make the man. It reveals him to himself. Men do not attract that which they want, but that which they are. The divinity that shapes our ends is in ourselves. It is our very self. Man is manacled only by himself. Thought and action are the jailers of fate. They imprison, being base. They are also the angels of freedom. They liberate, being noble. Not what he wishes and prays for does a man get, but what he justly earns. Men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. Good thoughts and actions can never produce bad results. Bad thoughts and actions can never produce good results. Most men understand this law in the natural world and work with it, but few understand it in the mental and moral world, yet its operation is just as simple and undeviating. Blessedness, not material possessions, is the measure of right thought. Wretchedness, not lack of material possessions, is the measure of wrong thought. A man may be cursed and rich. He may be blessed and poor. Blessedness and riches are only joined together when the riches are rightly and wisely used. And the poor man only descends into wretchedness when he regards his lot as a burden unjustly imposed. A man only begins to be a man when he ceases to whine and revile, and commences to search for the hidden justice which regulates his life. And as he adapts his mind to that regulating factor, he ceases to accuse as the cause of his condition and builds himself up in strong and noble thoughts. He ceases to kick against circumstances. Instead, he begins to use them as aids to his more rapid progress and as a means of discovering the hidden powers and possibilities within himself. The proof of this truth is in every person. Let a man radically alter his thoughts, and he will be astonished at the rapid transformation it will effect in the material conditions of his life. Men imagine that thought can be kept secret, but it cannot. It rapidly crystallizes into habit, and habit solidifies into circumstance. Thoughts of fear, doubt, and indecisions crystallize into weak, unmanly, and irresolute habits which solidify into circumstances of failure, indigence, and slavish dependence. Thoughts of courage, self-reliance, and decision crystallize into manly habits which solidify into circumstances of success, plenty, and freedom. A particular train of thought persisted in, be it good or bad, cannot fail to produce its results on character and circumstances. A man cannot directly choose his circumstances, but he can choose his thoughts, and so indirectly, yet surely, shape his circumstances. Nature helps every man to the gratification of the thoughts which he most encourages, and opportunities are presented which will most speedily bring to the surface both the good and evil thoughts. Let a man cease from his sinful thoughts, and all the world will soften toward him and be ready to help him. Opportunities will spring up on every hand to aid his strong resolves. Let him encourage good thoughts, and no hard fate shall bind him down to wretchedness and shame. The world is your kaleidoscope, and the varying combinations of colors which at every succeeding moment it presents to you are the exquisitely adjusted pictures of your ever-moving thoughts. A poet would express it this way: you will be what you will to be. Let failure find its false content in that poor word environment, but spirit scorns it and is free. It masters time, it conquers space, it cows that boastful trickster chance, and bids the tyrant circumstance uncrown and fill a servant's place. The human will, that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, can hew a way to any goal, though walls of granite intervene. A man should conceive of a legitimate purpose in his heart and set out to accomplish it. He should make this purpose the centralizing point of his thoughts. He should make this purpose his supreme duty and should devote himself to its attainment, not allowing his thoughts to wander away into ephemeral fancies, longings, and imaginings. Even if he fails again and again to accomplish his purpose, as he necessarily must until weakness is overcome, the strength of character gained will be the measure of his true success, and this will form a new starting point for future power and triumph. Those who are not prepared for the apprehension of a great purpose should fix their thoughts upon the faultless performance of their duty, no matter how insignificant the task may appear. Only in this way can thoughts be gathered and focused, and resolution and energy be developed. Strength can only be developed by effort and practice. And only in this way can you enter the ranks of those strong ones who recognize failure as just one of the pathways to attainment, and who make all conditions serve them. Having conceived of his purpose, a man should mentally mark out a straight pathway to its achievement, looking neither to right nor to left. Doubts and fears should be rigorously excluded. They have never accomplished anything, and they never can. They always lead to failure. Purpose, energy, power to do, and all strong thoughts cease when doubt and fear creep in. The will to do springs from the knowledge that we can do. He who has conquered doubt and fear has conquered failure. All that a man achieves and all that he fails to achieve is the direct result of his own thoughts. In a justly ordered universe, where loss of equipoise would mean total destruction, individual responsibility must be absolute. A strong man cannot help a weaker unless the weaker is willing to be helped. And even then, the weak man must become strong of himself, and by his own efforts develop the strength which he admires in another. None but himself can alter his condition. All achievements, whether in the business, intellectual, or spiritual world, are the result of definitely directed thought. They are governed by the same law and the same method. The only difference lies in the object of attainment. He who would accomplish little must sacrifice little. He who would achieve much must sacrifice much. He who would attain highly must sacrifice greatly. The dreamers are the saviors of the world. He who cherishes a beautiful vision, a lofty ideal in his heart, will one day realize it. Columbus cherished a vision of another world, and he discovered it. Copernicus fostered the vision of a multiplicity of worlds, a wider universe, and he revealed it. To desire is to obtain. To aspire is to achieve. Dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become. Your vision is the promise of what you shall one day be. Your ideal is the prophecy of what you shall at last unveil. For example, a young man may be hard-pressed by poverty and labor, confined long hours in an unhealthy workshop, unschooled and lacking all the arts of refinement. But he dreams of better things. He thinks of intelligence, of grace, and of beauty. Unrest urges him to action. He utilizes all of his spare time and means, small though they are, to the development of his latent powers and resources. Very soon, so altered has his mind become that the workshop can no longer hold him. It has become so out of harmony with his mentality that it falls out of his life as a garment is cast aside. And with the growth of opportunities which fit the scope of his expanding powers, he passes out of it forever. Years later, we see this same youth as a full-grown man. We find him a master of certain forces of the mind, which he wields with worldwide influence and almost unequaled power. In his hands, he holds the cords of gigantic responsibilities. He speaks, and lo, lives are changed. Men and women hang upon his words and remold their characters, and sun-like destinies revolve. He has realized the vision of his youth. He has become one with his ideal. And you too, who listening to this recording, will realize the vision, not the idle wish, of your heart, be it base or beautiful, or a mixture of both. For you will always gravitate toward that which you secretly most love. Into your hands will be placed the exact results of your own thoughts. You will receive that which you earn, no more, no less. Whatever your present environment may be, you will fall, remain, or rise with your thoughts, your vision, and your ideal. You will become as small as your controlling desire, as great as your dominant aspiration. In the beautiful words of Stanton Kirkham Davis, you may be keeping accounts, and presently you shall walk out of the door that for so long has seemed to you the barrier of your ideals, and shall find yourself before an audience, the pen behind your ear, the ink stains on your fingers, and then and there shall pour out the torrent of your inspiration. You may be driving sheep, and you shall wander to the city, bucolic and open-mouthed, shall wander under the intrepid guidance of the Spirit into the studio of the Master, and after a time he shall say, I have nothing more to teach you. And now you have become the Master, who did so recently dream of great things while driving sheep. You shall lay down the saw and the plane to take upon yourself the regeneration of the world, the thoughtless, the ignorant, and the indolent, seeking only the apparent effect of things and not the things themselves. Talk of luck, of fortune, and of chance. Seeing a man grow rich, they say, how lucky he is. Observing another become intellectual, they exclaim, how highly favored he is. They do not see the trials and failures and struggles which these men have voluntarily encountered in order to gain their experience, have no knowledge of the sacrifices they have made that they might overcome the apparently insurmountable and realize the vision of their heart. In all human affairs, there are efforts and there are results. And the strength of the effort is the measure of the result. Chance is not. Gifts, powers, materials, intellectual and spiritual possessions are the fruits of effort. They are thoughts completed, objects accomplished, visions realized. The vision that you glorify in your mind, the ideal that you enthrone in your heart, this you will build your life by. This you will become.
This is the end of Side A.